still watching, beautiful people, I have the absolute pleasure to introduce you to the lovely Veronica Williams. It was so worth the wait. I cannot wait to introduce you to this lovely lady. We had to unfortunately postpone it from last week, so I'm really, really happy to have you here, Veronica. We already had a bit of a chat beforehand, so we could get to know each other because we literally got connected through this lovely platform that we're both on, which is called Pop Match. So guests and interviewees are matched together, and I really love this opportunity to, through this platform, actually get people from all over the world that I have never connected with before. So without further ado, would you do us the honor to introduce yourself to our audience? Give us a little bit about the background. Who is Veronica Williams? Welcome.
Okay, welcome. Thank you so much, Marie. I really appreciate the opportunity.
You're so welcome.
I am a licensed minister, a master's certified life coach. I am the co-founder of Alliance Seminars Coaching, which is a veteran-owned faith-based organization that provides clients with coaching services, motivational speaking, and also certified workshops.
Wow. That is a lot. And as I just learned from you, you actually work with your husband, is that right?
Yes, that's my husband and I both are the founders of Alliance Seminars Coaching.
And who do you mainly work with? Who are your clients that you work with?
Our clients are individuals, couples, and we also do leadership workshops for organizations.
Yeah. There's one thing that really struck me that I find so beautiful, and I hope you don't mind me jumping straight into that, Veronica, because this story I find really touching. I have literally just in an interview this morning where I was asked a question about my husband and my relationship, and that came out of the blue. I hadn't been asked about our relationship for a really long time, and then we have our little chat, and you tell me that your husband and yourself, you went to couples coaching, couples therapy about 23 years ago. I find this so beautiful because you have got a very happy story to tell. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that? What made you do that? Is it something where you felt we want to better our relationship, or was it that there were things that you had to work out and you decided that would be the best way forward? You said you're okay for me to ask you that, so I asked permission. I didn't want to just strangle you into this question. I would love for you to share that with our viewers, if you don't mind.
Oh yes, my husband and I decided to go to marriage counseling because we are I'll just, if it's okay, I'll just say we're Christians, and
of course part of our
and a part of our church and our foundation is that we wanted to get a better biblical understanding and set a true godly foundation for our marriage. And as a result, we enrolled in marriage counseling at my church. And it was just phenomenal. It was great to learn about ourselves individually and learn about each other, new things, and building a foundation and setting some goals and really understanding what our love is towards one another, because people always have different definitions for what love is. And we also decided that was going to be great for us because I was going to have to move 3,000 miles away.
Wow.
And
to be with him,
with him, yes.
Yeah.
So the distance were
sorry, just quickly, that was then at the very start of your relationship that you did the marriage counseling?
Yes, at the very well, when we decided when he asked me to marry him, I said yes, but I also, prior to even just us getting to know each other and dating, in our conversations, we both had agreed that we wanted to do counseling. Because we both had different backgrounds. His parents were divorced. My parents had been married for 57 years. My husband was the oldest. I was the youngest in my family. I had many siblings that were married. So I had seen a plethora of relationships. And we also saw relationships with our friends. But being our Christian background, we wanted to really find a biblical base for us so that we can have a thriving and successful, healthy marriage. And part of that is we really needed to know how we were going to balance each other in terms of we both worked in ministry and we both had leadership roles. And so we needed to, how do you make that work? We've found some people, what we saw, a lot of people didn't have that working. It was dysfunctional. But then we saw the couples, other couples such as his mentor and my godparents who worked in ministry successfully. Even my parents worked in ministry successfully, but we wanted to have that as a foundation to just start our marriage out the right way with godly principles and with biblical principles that will allow us to have a healthy marriage. Because one thing we found out, there's no perfect marriages, but we did find out that there are healthy marriages. And in order to have a healthy marriage, it takes being authentic, being who you really are. It takes being honest, and it takes learning to trust each other and yourself, and discovering more and more things about you. You learn more about you when you live together with someone after you say you have to get married.
Absolutely.
You find out some of the things that you thought was just natural. They're weird to the other spouse.
I would like to, I just love what you say here, Veronica, because so many people wouldn't even consider couples counseling, marriage counseling, and very often people wait till a problem arises or before it's actually sometimes too late to, although I don't think it's ever too late, but you know what I mean, they wait till that it's really a very tricky and challenging situation already before they even ask or reach out for help or admit that they need help. And that's a big part. There's often pride in the way. And I love that you took that step before even anything could arise to really build a proper base. This is so beautiful. It says a lot about you. It says a lot about your love. And that brings me back to the question you said, everybody defines love differently. Can you share your definition, please? I'd love to hear yours.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll just say it in a more simplified way. It's based on the Bible in Ephesians 5:25, where he tells the husbands to love their wives as Christ loved the church. And it talked about for women to submit to their husbands. And I think that's where people get hung up at. And so when we can just kind of define that from a woman's perspective, I'm not going to submit and obey. Really, all that is saying is that you are to respect your husband. That's all it means. People get so hung up on and play on the words that you have to kind of like go a little deeper than that. And so for me, that was it. I loved my husband because, for one, in our building our relationship, we were friends first. We didn't engage in consummating our relationship prior to marriage. So that means I saved myself for him. And then just learning about what setting boundaries and allowing each individual to be able to speak freely about certain things. Because oftentimes people get married and they say, oh, he changed, or he shut down, he never talks about it. Well, all of those type of things, that type of communication, it should happen before marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no different than when you're building a relationship or a friendship with your best friend, male or female. And
Yeah.
so what happens is when you do that, and this is the person that you fall in love with, now he's your friend, your best friend. Now that you love him, now he's your lover, And then most importantly, he takes on being a confidant of yours. And that goes
Beautiful.
both ways, because
Yeah.
when we say I do, we're saying that I do to every part of this person, the good, the bad, the ugly, the parts that we don't know and we'll discover along the way.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps marriages together, when you really know what saying I do really means. And if you're really meaning that you're going to stay with this person until death do us part. And because what happens is, leading up to marriage, there are red flags that do happen with some couples. Not every couple goes through them. And some of the red flags are when people I've heard women say to me, I can't trust him, or men say, I can't trust her, or you go into a relationship being dishonest with secrets and not being able to share them with you. Well, those are red flags. And before you walk down the aisle to say I do, that is an issue that needs to be resolved. If you go into marriage with it, it's excess baggage that you're bringing into the marriage that is going a little deeper. And so that's why it's great to have marriage counseling, because you're able to talk about those most difficult things and you have someone to pull them out. Either they've discerned them, or it's something that you said that is overlooked, and they can go back and question you about it. A lot of people come out of relationships, go into one relationship, into a next one, which we call they're on the rebound. They our people get married and out of relationships through divorce or whatever so quickly. They're in one relationship, they get out of it, and they're back in another one. They haven't had time to heal. And they haven't had time to really discover what it is that I want now that this didn't work out for me.
I think there are so many really valuable points in there, some golden nuggets. I think it's almost like half a counseling session that you're giving us here already. I love it. Thank you so much for all these tips, because I really believe in that, just thinking about what you actually go into, and when you do see red flags beforehand, to address them beforehand and not say I do and then, oh, I maybe do, maybe I don't. Do you know what I mean? I would love to know. I know we're going kind of like we're starting straight with a beautiful, you went for marriage counseling and now we're going backwards a little bit. But I'd like to know, now that I know you had to move 3,000 miles away to get married and to meet your husband, live with him. You both said that you had a friendship before you got married. How did you even meet, and how did that work out 3,000 miles apart to create a friendship?
Well, first of all, my husband and I, we went to middle school and high school together.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We knew mutual friends. We never dated, but we had mutual friends because we just went, it was just, we were a close-knit middle school students and high school students. And after everyone went their way after high school, and about 4 years later, people got together when they saw each other, for those that moved out of town and came back in town. My husband and I reconnected back at our 10-year class reunion.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't going there to date anybody. I was single, he was single, and we happened to meet. And out of that, mutual friends always got together with him when he came out of town, because my husband was in the military. So he would travel with his job from time to time back to our hometown. And every time our group of friends got together with him when he came to town, I never was available. So what we did is I know. It probably could have happened sooner, right? But what we did is we met I met him. We went and had dinner, and one time we had lunch. We
Mm-hmm.
talked, and then we kept our friendship up just on the phone. And when he came
Mm-hmm.
to town to visit, we always got to see each other. And our friendship actually developed into a relationship.
Mm.
We spent hours on the phone. I still have them. He always asked about 200 questions, and we still have those questions. I said, we need to write these questions down.
I love it.
That would be helpful for other couples as we go
Mm.
through life. And as a result, it just ultimately, the relationship changed, and it changed one evening. We were talking for several hours.
Mm-hmm.
We were 3 hours difference in our time zone.
Mm.
And I came back in the evening and he had left me a message. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that sounds different,
Mm-hmm.
from all the other type of messages.
Yeah.
So I didn't call him back immediately. I called him back after 3 days, because I just needed to kind of catch my breath. I needed to figure
Mm-hmm.
out the tone. I didn't want to overreact. Like, what is this all about? And when I
Yeah.
called him back, he asked me about um, dating. Like, how do you
Mm-hmm.
feel about, long distance dating? Because I really
Mm-hmm.
feel like, I want to I've gotten to know you, but I really feel like I would like
Yeah.
to date you. And one of the things I said to him is that, I mean, I liked him. Of course, you grow on someone or someone grows
Yeah.
on you, the more you talk to them and the more you see
Mm-hmm.
them in depth as to who they really are. And I told him, I said, well, the one thing that is going to have to happen is something that is so taboo, and that is you're going to have to court me. And then I want to know for sure, um, what are your intentions?
Mm.
What is your purpose for dating me? Is it for
Yeah.
us? Back then, women thought you date for 3 months and surely you're boyfriend and girlfriend. And that's
Mm.
not the case. That is such a false myth that people have put on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I needed to know that.
Mm-hmm.
I was an introvert, but I
Mm-hmm.
also, the more I got to know him, the more my voice was valued, and the more that I can say whatever I
Mm.
wanted to say respectfully. And so that took me out of my little shy shell. And
Yeah.
he was willing to do that. And he proved
That's
himself
beautiful.
that way, because actions speak louder than words. You could say a whole lot of things, but
Yes.
um,
I couldn't
showing
agree
it,
more.
demonstrating it,
Yeah.
and it works both ways, because
Yeah.
we're both far away. How do I know I'm
Yeah.
going to be the one?
Mm.
How do I know? Are you interested in dating more people or just one
Mm.
person when you're
Yeah.
asking me this question? Because, and
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of women are encouraged enough,
Mm.
are bold enough to
Yeah.
really take a stand for how the relationship operate. We become
Yeah.
more passive and allow the
Mm.
male to run the relationship, which I'm not saying that he should not,
Mm-hmm.
but your voice should be equally important
I
and
think that's the key
valued.
word, the equally important. I think every relationship needs the mutual respect, the mutual love, the mutual courting, the mutual, I love when you said, I felt my voice was heard. That is so beautiful because that is such an important feeling. If you don't have that in a relationship, there's definitely a huge lack. There's something very, very important missing. So
And it's so,
I, yeah.
no, I was going to say, and you're very right. It's very key about being valued in your relationship.
Mm.
And I know when we do coaching, we want to know, does your fiance, have, are they able to speak freely?
Yeah.
And speak freely without being regarded as, um, less than who they are, and
Mm.
without judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. Without judgment. That's a big one. Absolutely. Veronica, I would like to take you a little bit further into your journey now. So you guys got married at what age?
We were married, I believe I was 32 years old when we got
Wow.
married.
Yeah, beautiful. And then take us a little bit on that path of your children,
So,
because there is where we come to the journey of loss as well. And I'd really like you to share that, because I just think it's incredibly powerful and beautiful what happened along your journey.
yep,
I'll
along
let you
our
tell us.
journey, yes, along our journey, we've had 2 miscarriages.
Mm,
Um, when you go through a miscarriage, there's so many, it's grief. And grief has about 6 various stages, about 7 stages. And in
mm,
grief, you can go through all of them, or you can go through a few of them.
mm,
But because I had such a spiritual foundation in my life, I was hurt,
mm.
I cried, I was disappointed, but I also relied on God to help us and to help
Yeah.
me. Of course, naturally, everyone runs to the woman and want to console her, and the husband is pushed to the side like he never was there.
Mm,
But one thing that I did, I always made sure that I communicated with my husband. I always made sure that he understood where I was coming from. And I also
mm.
made sure that he was okay.
Yeah.
Um, he might have felt sometimes when he felt like, oh, everybody always asks about you, but they never ask
Yeah.
about me.
That's so
But
true, though.
yes,
Yeah.
and I think to anyone that goes through a miscarriage and you're with the spouse or the significant other, it's
Mm,
important to include them in the pain. Because you have to realize not only you are grieving, you can't be selfish in that. The
mm.
other spouse is grieving as well. And particularly in this case, my husband was grieving as well, because
Yeah.
being 32 years old is something that you're excited about. We had decided
Mm,
that this was a season that we were ready to start having a baby
mm,
or planning for our family to increase.
mm,
And we were disappointed that we did not survive that. With
mm.
that particular baby, the reason why it became a miscarriage is also the baby had a certain chromosome that
Mm.
was not going to allow it to grow
Yeah.
past a certain age. I was at 22 weeks of being pregnant,
Mm.
so it was also risky.
Yeah.
If I had gone full term with the baby, it wasn't so sure that I would have come out alive with that.
Mhm.
So we had to go through our doctors to kind of figure out the best way. How were they going to, find the solution?
Mm.
Fortunately, I was just at the point where it was okay. They were able to. It was able to have a miscarriage.
Mm.
How it came about, because if it was any longer in any more weeks, if it was 25 weeks or 27 weeks or something like that, I would have had to go full term, and then we wouldn't have known what was going to happen with the baby
Yeah.
and with me, health wise and in the delivery process.
Mm.
But not only did we have one miscarriage, we actually had 2.
Mm.
And the second one, again, I was 20 some weeks. Um, um, and I probably was going through some empty nesting the night before. And I woke up
Yeah.
in the morning not really knowing what was happening. And my husband had to, again, well, for this particular time, he had to call the ambulance, fire truck, everybody, the whole shebang.
Mm.
And they just rushed me to the hospital. They took care of whatever we needed to take care of. And it was when I got to the hospital, they were able to share with us what had happened.
Yeah.
And again, here we go, a second time being believers. We didn't really question God. We just kind of said, well, the Lord must know best. He must
Mm.
know what's ahead for us in this case. Um, and I got more strength. And I think this is a time where my husband, even in the miscarriages, I think he got to see how strong I really was. Because I was from a large family. I was the youngest in
Mm.
the family. I already had to move 3,000 miles away with him, being a military wife. He knew that I had adapted in that manner. But going through something like this without family around was a difficult piece that he was more concerned about. Is she gonna be okay, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, we had the miscarriage. We got through it. We had some friends we had a good village around us. We had family, we had our friends. But most importantly, we had our faith to just trust God. And in this particular pain, I got a revelation through my prayer and my devotional time and being able to, I think it was in the second pregnancy where I was able to really build up my confidence to share it, to share the story. And part of sharing the story is that God had shown me that it was my husband and I one day was just sitting on the bed and we were crying, we were talking, and we got ourselves composed. And I said, I feel like the Lord is telling me, I'm hearing that the Lord is saying to me that we are only in our storm for as long as we allow ourselves to be. Didn't understand what it meant. I was like, okay, God, I need you to show me more about that. And it was like, Veronica, I know your pain. But as soon as you turn it over to me, because this is something that you cannot handle on your own, then I can start the healing process. And when I realized that, and I turned it over to God, and I went through all of that, I went through the stages of grief, through the stages of feeling bad, through the stages of other people making you feel bad that you didn't have a baby, you know what I mean? Or just certain things that come along. It's so many things. You're going through grief yourself, but then you have all these outside people that are not influencers in your life, but they're more onlookers. And by us being believers, people were looking at how are they going to handle this? And even though they say that they
I can only imagine that people who are not believers, that they would stand on the sideline and go like, well, where's your God now? And how can he help you now? And that is that tool. And I have spoken to so many Christians about that as well, that they themselves went through phases like that, where it challenged their faith, where it challenged their belief in God, their belief in that he'll always, has got your back, and that you can turn everything over to him. How did you go with that? Did you have a time of questioning that? Did you have a challenging time with your own faith, or was your faith just rock solid all the way through and you knew that you were held in that?
Yeah, I want to say that my faith was shaken, but shaken to the point that I had to draw closer to God. I didn't question him. I just read his word and I prayed, and that he would heal, that he would deliver, he would set us free, he would allow us to go through this. And one thing that I did not do is I did not isolate myself from the family and the friends that was really there to help support me. First, it was my husband. And the way that my husband and I got through this is that we said, this challenge is not to divide us, but this challenge is to draw us closer.
Yeah.
And that is what it did. It drew us even closer. Like, we loved each other even more so. We just said, well, we don't have any children. It just allows us to have more time to love on one another. And to still give our all to God, because we had made a commitment in our life.
Yeah.
For me, in my years growing up, there was a song that said, I will trust in the Lord until I die. And this was one of those situations. It was until I die, because I had to really lean on him. I could not give up, and I had to trust him in his promises. But I also had to reflect on other times when there was challenges in my life and how God showed up. And I had to go back and remember and believe that he was going to show up this time too.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he did. I didn't waver in my faith in terms of like, oh God, you said. I didn't waver like that. My faith was shaken in that it was like, oh my, I gotta fight a little harder to be stronger, to be more encouraged, to realize how I'm gonna get through this, and for the second time, hold my head up despite of feeling low. How can I find peace in the midst of all this pain? And one thing that I had told my husband is that, we can't get stuck here. This is just a challenge for us to grow and learn more about what God wants us to do, because he still wants to bless us. We just didn't know how he was going to bless us. But we can't give up on God now. And that was the whole thing, not giving up on God. And so I was really strong. And I think that's when my husband realized, you said you can handle the military, that lifestyle alone was challenging. He said, but when we went through this, I really saw how much you really, really were a woman of faith. I knew it in our dating and in our conversation and as we become friends. But when you went through this, I really saw how strong you were. And
that's so beautiful.
That was that. And we got through it. You get through things, but you realize when storms of life come, you got to remember they pass away as well. Storms come and they go away. It's just a matter of how long is it going to be there, right? So you just have to be steadfast, unmovable, always abiding in the works of the Lord. And that's what God showed me. And so at the time, I was a Bible study teacher to young people, middle school age. And here I am, I lost a baby. How am I going to be able to still teach somebody else's children? But that was my ministry. That was what I was supposed to do. And even doing some women's ministry allowed me to show other women strength and courage that when they went through.
That's the one thing, Veronica, that I really want to highlight that I think is so incredibly beautiful and powerful about you and your husband and the relationship that you live, the faith that you live and portray, that every situation that was presented to you that would have been an incredible challenge at the time, that you took as experience, of wealth of experience, to teach other people, to love them through the storm and help them through the storm. And that to me, I'm having goosebumps just saying that. See, that to me is, there's this beautiful thing. I've shared this many times over, love yourself through the storm. And that's what you do for these people when they are in the midst of the storm, because you know what it feels like and you know what you did to love yourself through the storm and to lean in even closer on your faith, on each other as well, and to really take that as a strengthening exercise rather than this is tearing us apart, which is incredible. So let us fast forward to your beautiful son. Tell us about that. How old were you at that stage?
Well,
that was your third pregnancy, is that right?
Those was the two pregnancies that led to miscarriages. About 2 years after the second miscarriage, we were pregnant again. And we had wonderful doctors. We had wonderful physicians that just really encouraged us to say that they were going to do everything they could to make sure that we had a successful pregnancy. And as a result, I did have a son who is now 17, a senior in high school.
Wow.
So when we were going through, we didn't see that coming. And when my son was about 3 years old, I was pregnant with twins. And so now we have twin 14-year-olds who are now all three kids this school year are all in high school.
Incredible.
But, my husband and I had a moment today because the kids are in person school here. And today we
I have just lost you, Veronica. You are frozen now. I hope we get you back. I have the right internet connection. I'm not really sure. Veronica, maybe you can send me a little chat message if you can still hear me, because you're frozen for us and I can't hear you. Anybody watching this? I can see there are people watching. Can you please tell me in the comments if you can still see Veronica move, because I can't. No, we lost her. I really hope Veronica is coming back in, because her story is just so incredible. Her story doesn't just stop there with the birth of her son, the birth of her twins. It's absolutely incredible. There was one more loss that Veronica has experienced that really touched my heart so deeply when she shared that story with me. And I truly hope that she can come back in and share her own story, because I understand. Here she is. Here she is.
Oh, Marie, I'm so
Yay.
sorry. I don't know
It's
what happened.
okay. It's okay. We're still live and I've got you back, and I did a little ad break for you, and I shared with our audience that I really hope that you can come back in. I'm glad you did, because there is a really another story, another loss that you are about to share, and that happened when you were pregnant with your son. Is that correct?
Oh, yes,
I'd
Marie.
love for you to share this story, because it's really, it kind of paints the entire picture of
yes.
birth and death, and I'll leave this story to you to share.
Yeah, so not only did I have 2 miscarriages, but I went through a lot of on the night that I had, I was scheduled to have my son in the new year of 2004. And I wanted the doctor to take the baby on January 1st, but she said, no, I want you to take it on January 2nd. On January 1st, I spent hours on the phone talking to my oldest sister, who was my mentor, who was just part of the reason why I am the woman that I am today, the wife that I am today, and the mother that I am today as a result of her. Because I watched her from the time she got married to having children. We spent a lot of time talking that day. We were excited. She was like, well, you call me as soon as you get to the hospital. And unfortunately, what I did not know is as that evening that we had spoken, my sister had passed away. Not that particular day. That day she had taken sick several hours after we had spoken. I did not know it. I was trying to reach family, but no one would answer the phone, because there was something big was going to happen that day, and I wanted to hear all about it, but I couldn't reach her, couldn't reach my family. Finally, someone realized that Veronica's calling all over town. So they, looking for everybody, right? So apparently they called my, my one sister called, and just to do chit chat and said, oh yeah, everything's fine. We're, I don't know where they are. I don't know where everyone is, kind of like, not to make me worry, because I was going to be delivering the baby the next day. So I was,
so that was New Year's Day.
That was New Year's Day. In the evening, my family all lived on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. And that morning that we got to the hospital on January 2nd, I actually called my mom. And I said, hey, Mom, they just gave me my Pitocin, Pitosis or whatever, my epidural. And my mom didn't sound as happy as she normally would. But, and I noticed it in her voice, but I was like, well, maybe I got her when she was sleepy, because it was very early her time. She sounded, then she got happy to just, say goodbye to me and to give me her prayer and blessings to have a healthy baby. So we went on to deliver. That was early in the morning. I didn't have my son to almost at 9:40 at night. I was at the hospital from 5 a.m. in the morning to 9:40 at night is when I delivered him. A very long time. And so we had our baby. It was late on our side of the time. My husband, gave me the phone to call a family member. And then they said, well, don't call anyone else. We'll call everybody else for you. You just get your rest.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything of it. My husband and I, we have the baby.
Who
We
said that
wake
to
up
you? Don't call anybody else.
One of my sisters.
Okay.
When I had talked to her, she said, we'll call everybody and tell them that you had the baby.
Yeah. Wow.
And so that Saturday morning, apparently my family had called my husband, and I didn't realize it, but my husband had swapped phones with me, meaning that he said, you take my phone, let me go charge your phone. Because and as a result, later on, we had visitors in the hospital. Now, mind you, I was very shocked that my husband.
No, we're losing you again. Not now. Oh, no. I give it a couple of minutes. Veronica, we cannot hear you again. You're frozen again. I'm not really sure what your internet connection is doing today, but I really want our audience to hear this story because it's actually very beautiful. So where's the piano man when we need him to play some elevator music? This is such an incredible story. I did not know that part of Veronica's husband switching the phones, which is so, so beautiful. When you hear the rest of the story, it makes so much sense. And here she's gone again. So I hope she's coming back in again in a minute. That would be so beautiful to finish off this story. It really touched my heart. I really love that we have Veronica come on, in particular for all the Christians in our group here that will draw a lot of strength from this story, I believe. So I'm just going to give it another minute, hoping that Veronica will come back in to finish off that story. I hope that everybody's having a nice day while watching this. Leave me a comment below. I'd love to know who's watching. I can see how many people are watching, but not who it is. So maybe you can say hi in the comments so I know who you are. Veronica, Veronica, please come back to me. I'd really like to finish this story. I don't know what to do without Veronica. I don't want to take this story away from her, but I want you to know the ending. There she is. Yay. Knock, knock.
Maria, I don't know what I had to change devices.
That's okay. We've got you back. I just can't see you at the moment. I can hear you again.
Okay, I'm getting there. Here we go.
There you go.
There I am.
So I want our audience to hear the rest of the story. So you basically were in hospital. I just said while you were gone, I think it was so beautiful of your husband to switch the phones because he obviously already knew. And then what happened?
So my husband, I guess my family had called my husband to tell him that my sister had passed away. As we talked over the years and during that time, he said he didn't know how he was going to tell me because he knew how close I was to my sister and he knew how much she meant to me. And he said that was the hardest thing, to have joy on one hand that we have our baby, and to have a bittersweet moment to have to tell me that my sister passed away. And so I say that to say it was a bittersweet moment. He told me that my sister had passed away. He had actually called my pastor and our associate pastor's wife, and they came to the hospital, and he shared that news with me. But I want to kind of go back, and I'm sorry if I'm going back. When I delivered my son, I want to say that I was minutes or seconds away from the doctor telling my husband that I was going to have a C-section. But the room got so bright, and I kid you not, I felt that up above, because I'm laying back, right? And I felt up above me was my sister, and above her was Jesus. And this is how I envisioned this that night, not knowing anything was happening. And the doctor came to say, we're going to give a C-section. But I heard Jesus and I heard my sister say to me that every birth has a little bit of pain. And so as a result, I squeezed my husband's hand and I told him, I'm going to push. And as a result, I pushed. And that's how I delivered my son. And then getting to that, I had explained to him how I felt that. But at this time, he didn't know that my sister had passed away. I didn't know my sister had passed away. I just knew that how bright the room got, and I just knew what I saw above my head. Now, when he told me the next day, after family had reached him to tell him, and he said, I want to do it, but I want to call our pastor and our associate pastor's wife, because I know that they will help her. They're close to her. She admires them. And they will be the ones to help us in this situation. And that's exactly what happened. He called them, they came. I was a little bit taken back, like, wow, they came all the way here to see the baby, to be here for us. So I'm not knowing what's going on. And one of them took the baby, and Darrell and my pastor sat on my bed, and they shared the story with me. And I want to tell you this, as heartbroken and that I was, I took a breath, I cried. And then I remember my pastor asking me, how do you feel? What are you thinking? I think she said, what are you thinking? And I said, it is well with my soul. And the reason why I can say that, and I had that faith right there, even in the midst of something that was so traumatic for me, is that I knew my sister had a relationship with Christ, and I knew that she would be going to heaven. And that was, and I knew that she had already demonstrated to me how to be a good wife, how to be a good mother, and how to just prosper in life and balance and maintain all those things. So I felt like she had already given me the tools and the strategies aside and along with my mom that I can get through this. I want to say that if I had not pushed and had a C-section, I probably wouldn't have been able to make it home to her funeral. And the chaplain at the hospital, because you have a chaplain, they come in, they want to see if you're okay. The doctor came back on his off day and said, we heard the story, and we just wanted to come here and make sure you're okay. I wanted to check you out. I know you don't have high blood pressure, but so many things. You just went through too many things. You went through the emotions of a baby. And you went through the emotion of having to get information from a death. And I want to make sure you're okay. And I was actually fine. And he felt like, wow, you're such a powerful woman. I cannot believe this,
And as a result, I was able to go home a little early. We just had to go back a couple of days later to make sure the baby was fine. They gave me permission and all the paperwork that I needed to be able to travel with an infant son that was days old. And I was able to go home. And one of my sister's son, her youngest son, we had time together. When I got there, he said, "I'm so glad you made it." He said, "But I want you to know that, you know, I'm sorry that I lost my mom. I know how close you were with my mom." He said, "But seeing you here and seeing your baby, I feel like he's giving us all the strength to move on, because we also understand that sometimes in death, there's new life." And my son represented the new life. Even though we were going to have to learn how to live with the void of not having my sister. And that's what happens in grief. We are hurt so much that we don't really know and have strategies or tools to live with the void in our life. And that was something that God had shown me, how to live with the void. I'm not going to say that it was easy initially. It was not. And I want to say, my husband was in the military. He traveled. So on the night when we got back and when he had to go and travel, and it was just me and the baby, it was very difficult. And so I made it through. I had to press my way through, because I was reminded that in her death, she brought life, and she wouldn't want me to cry. She wouldn't want me to get stuck just in her death, but she would want me to find ways to cherish her life, you know, to be whether it be a conversation or something we share together. And so I had to think of good moments with her. I had to be reminded of some of the deep conversations we had with her, sharing with me, being a wife, being a military wife, and being a mother.
I can't thank you enough for sharing this, because I know it was such a intense and long time for you. You know, we share this here in 1 hour or just under an hour, but for you there were years and years of hope, of trials, of emotional waves, of your faith being shaking, leaning into faith, building that relationship with God stronger, and the relationship with your husband stronger, and your beautiful influence of your sister over so many years. How many of you are there? How many siblings were there when you grew up?
When I grew up, there was 11 siblings.
11, and you're the youngest.
I'm the youngest. We had 4 boys and 7 girls, and I was the 7th girl.
Wow. That's
so my life
incredible.
has some
and
significance.
having so many older siblings. I know this from my mom, because in my mom's family there were 9 living siblings. It would have been 11 as well, but there were 9 living siblings when she grew up. And you know, it's literally like the eldest children help raising the younger ones after a while, because there's like a whole generation in between the oldest and the youngest, really. And I understand all about that, you know, the differences and the different generations, but also the bond that you have as a family. And being the youngest, I can only imagine what bond you must have had to that sister of yours. And I find that for me, the most peaceful and most beautiful moment in this whole interview was that you said, you know, you already had all the tools and strategies. She's really taught you well, and that your soul was at peace, which is so beautiful. And seeing that you have also been gifted with a new focus, you know, a little new life that was gifted to you that needed your attention, and then being blessed with twins 3 years later as well. It's just such a beautiful story, and I'm really, really happy that you shared it with us, Veronica. We've only got a couple of minutes left, so I want to quickly ask you one more question about the business that you and your husband run. Do you want to share a little bit about more what you do? You gave us a little bit of an intro at the beginning, but I always ask people that come here for the Upstyle Brief interviews to then please also give the opportunity for people to contact you when they want to. So what's the best way? Give us a bit of deeper insight of what you do in your business and how people can reach you, we will be sharing the links here in the group afterwards. So just give us a bit of a rundown.
Okay. Yes, our business is Alliance Seminars Coaching. And just a little bit, our mission is that we support clients by sharing strategies and skills that strengthen their personal and professional relationships. We also collaborate with individuals and organizations to improve leadership skills, which increase individual quality of life and their business culture.
Yeah.
We coach.
Quite a broad spectrum.
It's a broad spectrum. It's relationships as well as leadership. And as well as, you know, empowerment, giving women purpose and providing, I call it, you know, understanding and identifying who they really are and becoming who they are. And I just want, you know, one of my main things about it is, even in our brokenness, God can mend us back together to be whole again. No matter how difficult life serves you lemons, or things are so bittersweet in your life, you keep living, and it gets sweeter. It does get sweeter. That the bitter is only a glimpse of the past, but it's not the future. And so I'm just always encouraged that nothing in my life, whether it was hurtful, disappointment, painful, it didn't stop there. It's all was to help me grow and to be strengthened and to move forward in life. And it actually catapulted me into being a woman that is so interested in helping other women grow and learn more in their faith and in their walk and get through their life's challenges. Because our storms and the things that we go through in life, it catapults us into our passion, which then gives us purpose. So that's some of the things that
purpose is
like
a really big one. Purpose is a really big one. It is something that I address a lot in our group as well, because this is often where people find themselves on this crossroad, you know, when one of their loved ones passes, and then they stand there and try to find their purpose, or try to reconnect to that purpose, or create a new purpose, because often that can change significantly after something like that, after an adversity like that. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the time that you have spent with us here. I'm really glad that despite 2 quick technical difficulties, we could get you back in and actually finish your story. I was actually starting to sing elevator music while you were gone. So I'm glad that you saved people from us singing.
Well, thank you. And I want to apologize for the technical difficulties, but I am so glad that I was able to connect with you and to share my story, to give women and people hope. Life doesn't stop at death, you know. We just have to find reasons to live.
Yeah, I love that you say that. Thank you so much for this statement. And I will also get Veronica to share links with us here in the group where you can connect with her, where you can find her, because I know that we have a lot of questions here in our community as well. I always make a big point about this group not being about the faith, but also not excluding it. Do you know what I mean? So this group is really about healing, and I believe that everybody needs to find their own way, what suits them. And I will never make a difference depending on what faith people are. I will always include, involve, invite, encourage people to come here to heal. And I do know that there are a lot of Christians in this group, so I'm really quite happy that you shared your faith so openly for those who really needed to hear this message. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Veronica. And as I said, we will be sharing links how you can get in touch with this beautiful woman. So much love to all of you. I have to put my phone away because it was leaning here so I can see how many people are on and if there are any questions. But I'm wishing you a wonderful day, evening, wherever you are. This is Veronica and Marie signing off. Bye for now. Thank you.